Alright, so I'm starting the first major issue with the Honda Passport, aka Isuzu Rodeo. The rear differential is leaking a lot and it is time to address it, so we're going to put this thing up in the air and then we'll see what's going on. Alright, so we got all this fluid. I have drippage going on whenever I park it. Pinion seal is definitely leaking. There's some seepage for sure. But it's not enough to justify what's here, and that doesn't explain all of this being wet. So I'm gonna grab our bucket and we're gonna scrape away at this and we're gonna try and figure out where this is coming from. What we're gonna end up doing is pulling the cover off. If the cover is so rusty that it has holes in it, which might be the case, then we gotta get a new cover. Otherwise, we're gonna pull the cover off, reseal everything, get a pinion seal for sure, and that should fix our problem. But first, we're gonna try and figure out, yeah, there might be a freaking hole right there. I don't know, but it seems like it's coming. Yeah, it's wet up. And it's wet all the way up here. So let's get the bucket. So I think first thing I'm gonna do is pull the plug on it. What? Look at the flakiness. Yeah, the whole thing's bad. Oh my god. I think that this had an undercoating on it, and I think a lot of this is the undercoating. Yeah, like this is definitely undercoating. This is all undercoating. Look at this. So I messed up when it came to filming this part, and it did turn out that the diff had some pinholes, rusty pinholes in the cover, and that was the cause of our leak, along with the pinion seal. But everything inside looks really nice, so we're going to skip right past that and go to when we actually have the parts to fix it. Alright, so we're back at it on the Honda Passport, Isuzu Rodeo, whatever you want to call it. We were able to order a genuine Dana 44 diff cover from Dana. Right here, it says Dana on it. From Summit Racing. It came with the cover, which seems to be quite a bit thicker than our original cover. That could be because of the rust though, I don't know. A set of bolts, brand new bolts, which we also needed. And the new fill plug. So this is everything we need to replace that cover. One of the things that it doesn't have, let me grab the stock cover. Oh, the stock cover's on there. So the stock cover has a vent tube like right here on the diff. And obviously this one doesn't have the vent tube built into it. So we're going to end up drilling a hole in the top of the housing. It's a better spot for the diff vent anyways, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to use that top part of the housing. We're going to drill a hole, put a 1/4 inch pipe fitting in there, and then we'll be able to attach our hose for that. We got a pinion seal, so we're going to be knocking the pinion off and doing that. We got gear oil, and I got some stuff to do to service the transfer case and the transmission as well. And then on top of that, I have some 415 because we're going to bust all the grime and crap off of this rear end. We're going to hit it with the wire wheel on the grinder, and then we're going to give it a paint job because it is nasty. This thing had undercoating on it, and it is really thick on the rear end. It's thick in a lot of places, but the rust has gotten behind the undercoating, and now you just have all this flaky crap everywhere. So systematically, as I work on this thing, I'm going to go through and I'm going to try and clean all that stuff up and then give it a good coat of a quality paint. I've used this on my friend's FJ40, and I think it was this, and with really good results. I don't know how long it lasts. I don't know how rust preventative it is really, but this is the best thing on the market, I think. So this is what we're going to use, and let's hope that it works. So let me show you guys the rear end real quick because it is nasty. Alright, you guys can see how nasty this is. I've already been in here chipping away at a lot of this flaky stuff. There's a lot that's like sitting up top here. So what I'm going to do, I put the cover back on because I actually had to move the car out because I had to work on something else. But it's actually good that the cover's on there because that'll protect our gears from getting a bunch of junk in there. So I think I'm going to have to I'm going to try and get this brake line, this guy off of here so I can pull that away from the housing to make it easier and zip tie up. I'm going to try and pull that, I think it's an ABS sensor. Anyways, I'm going to get all that stuff out of the way, and I'm going to go through with a scraper, and I'm going to scrape, and then I'm going to go through with the wire wheel, and I'm going to clean all this up to about here, as far as I can get over in this direction, because one of the next things we're going to be doing is, I'm waiting on parts, but we got new springs, new U-bolts, new shocks coming. We're going to do some shackles in the rear, so a lot of this stuff is going to get replaced, and when we do that, we'll continue our Pour 15 process over further and try and get all of that replaced as well, or all of that cleaned up and painted as well. So that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to get to scraping, and I'm just going to turn you guys on time lapse. I don't know if it's going to be worth watching, but we'll probably catch a little bit of it. But I bet it's probably an hour of cleanup work. Hopefully not that long. Hopefully I can bust it out real quick with the wire wheel. But let's just get to it. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drill a hole in the housing right here, and that's going to give us a vent location. So we're just going to go ahead and mark it, or center punch it. We're going to drill straight through it, put our pipe thread in there, and that should be it. Pipe thread, I don't know what a pipe thread is, but put our pipe fitting in there. Oh, we actually have to thread it first, don't we? Okay. So then we got our tap. So this is cast iron. It's pretty soft as far as being able to drill it, machine it, you know. So yes, I'm gonna get all the shavings out of the housing when I'm done. We still gotta clean that all out. So some Dana 44s have a flat pad right here, and that's where they were talking about drilling it when I was looking online. But this one is a different casting because it has, well, one, it has this piece cast into it for the I believe it's the ABS ring. I don't think this is the speedo, because there's another sensor on the back of the transfer case. I believe that's the speedometer sensor. But I haven't looked into it, so I don't know for sure. Let's make sure that we got this down in there. With these pipe threads, you have to thread them in far enough. Yeah, we're not quite there yet for it to actually grab. I don't know, this seems right, so I'm not sure why it's not wanting to thread in there. So let's see what this one does. This one goes the same. So this was a 1/4 inch inverted flare and not an actual 1/4 inch NPT or 1/8 inch 27 NPT, so I just used the die that I had, ran it down it. Now we're good. I gotta put some sealer on here, some pipe tape, thread tape, whatever you want to call it, and we'll get that guy in there. We'll be done with that project. We got to make sure, here's the vent line, we got to make sure that this vent line is still clear, and if it is, We'll put a little clamp on it and we'll call that part of this project done. Hey, here we go. Check. This. Make sure this clear. Okay. Perfect. Okay. That part of the project's done. All right, so the next thing that we got to do is we have to pull the drive line in order to get to the pinion seal. We got to get this pinion seal replaced, and then we can go and clean out the diff, put the diff cover on, put the ABS sensor back in, and then paint the whole thing and all that. But let's start with the pinion seal. Oh yeah, I wanted to show you guys. So the diff vent was right here in the top of the diff. So that's why we had to drill that hole there. And it's okay because it's actually a slightly better location for it than having it in that cover. So small improvement. Oh, there we go. All right, check that U-joint while we're in here. Ooh, a little bit stiff going this way. Is there? And there's no grease zerk. So we're gonna have to think about that in the future. That thing is no grease zerks, huh? No grease zerk. Nope. That one's gonna need replaced at some point. So we gotta find a socket for this big nut, and then that'll pull the pinion off. One of the things you gotta look at when you do this is like how bad is this part where the pinion seal rides. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of sandpaper and I'm basically gonna polish this up, and I'm gonna make this surface as smooth as possible. It's really not bad. It's got a little bit of corrosion or something on there, so we'll get that taken care of. We'll get that all cleaned up, and now we need to actually knock this seal out of here, and hopefully we got the right one. All right, so I do have this tool. It gets in here, it's just basically like a hook, and then nope. Oh, there it goes. Ah, oh, yeah. There we go. There's our old seal. And we have the wrong seal. That's pretty typical. Okay. Well, that's a stopping point for us then. Alright, so it turns out they gave us the wrong seal, so I gotta get that tomorrow. But tonight, I'm gonna go ahead and paint this thing. So that's what's coming up. Pour 15. Alright, so we ended up getting the right seal. Here it is. We painted the diff last night and it looks really good. So we're going to get this whacked in there. Alright, so one tip that I learned when I worked at a transmission shop right out of high school for like 5 years. Or actually before I even graduated high school. So one thing that they taught me was to pack these seals, the back side of these seals, with a little bit of grease. Because that'll help. Because that little spring that holds the seal in could possibly pop out. And you don't want that to happen. So put a little grease in there and that'll hold it in there. Alright, so the other thing you want to do, the other thing that I like to do is to put just a little bit of RTV around the edge of the seal. Oh, I should show you guys more. A little bit of RTV around the edge here, and that will help fill in any kind of weird gouges or anything, any kind of imperfections in the housing. Just a little bit. Alright, that's that. Alright, and then lastly, the thing that I like to do, well, first of all, I polished this. You can kind of see I got some sandpaper and just polished that up. The last thing is, so there's a slight chance that oil can run through these splines and leak out. What you do to combat that is you basically just put a little bit of RTV, a little bit of silicone or whatever behind this washer. So you put a little bit of silicone behind here, and that pushes the RTV into those splines and helps keep it from leaking. I believe the open's in there. It shouldn't be an issue to run it down pretty solid. Like so. Alright, so that's it for the pinion side. Alright, so all I got to do at this point is just put my drive line back in, which is here. So we line this bad boy up. Get it there. Get a couple of bolts. Oh yeah, the bolts came through the back side, didn't they? Yeah. Alright. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, get those bolts back in there with the nuts and lock washers, and then we'll call this side of this job done, and then we'll get our cover installed on the other side, get our gear lube in there, and hopefully we'll be done with this pretty soon. Let's go ahead and get this plugged back in. So one interesting thing about the ABS on this thing is it's rear only ABS, and it kind of sucks. Like, it pulsates the pedal pretty badly, at least on this truck. I don't know if it's inherent to all of them. I know some of the early ABS systems were, a lot of them were like that. So I'm not even sure if I should keep it. So I don't know, but I'm just going to plug it back in for now. Maybe I'll do some research on it and see if I really want that system on there, or if I can even unplug it or not, or whatever. So that's just a little interesting fact about that. Rear only ABS. But it might actually work. Like, the rear usually locks up easier than the front, so. Alright, so yeah, let's go ahead and just put some silicone on here and slap this cover on. It's all good. My diff cover is still a little bit tacky after the second coat, so that kind of sucks, but we're just going to get this thing on here. Try not to mess it up. I ended up with some runs right here, which is, you know, this is just mainly for protection. It's not necessary for looks, but my second coat was definitely too heavy. When you're using this Pour 15 stuff, it says light coats, and I did really good on the first coat. I kept it real light, you know, I spread it, and it barely used any, so that stuff actually goes a long ways. But then when I did the second coat, I did it this morning. I did it in a hurry, and I definitely laid it on a little thick, and it's only been about, what, 4 hours maybe, not even 4 hours since I did it, so it hasn't really dried all the way, but that's fine. We're gonna get some gear oil in this thing. We're gonna get our brand new drain plug already with some thread dope on there, and we'll get this thing done. All right, so I went with full synthetic gear oil, 7590, 75W90. I got this crappy little pump, but it's gonna get the job done. Usually I have some squeeze bottles, but apparently I got rid of all of them in the move. And if I have something like this, I'll just put it into one of the squeeze bottles and squirt it in. But I don't have that, so we're using this little pump. Ugh, this pump sucks. Ugh. Alright, I'm getting tired of pumping this. Come on. Where are you? This pump sucks. Oh, come on. Where is it? It's supposed to be less than 2 quarts. How long does it take to pump 2 friggin' quarts? Okay, I'm done. I gotta take a break. This is ridiculous. Where are we? It's like you pump and you pump and you pump. Like all that pumping I just did, I think I got 1 quart in there. Alright. I gotta get smart here. Work smarter instead of harder. I'm gonna put that thing inside of this. And then pump it. So at the parts store, they said it takes like 1.7 quarts, but I sat there and let this thing dripped and dripped all of the gear oil out of it for a few days. So I guess it's taken more because I think we're at least 2 quarts. Close to 2 quarts at this point. I think we're getting close. There it is. There it is. That's the level. Alright, so I guess that's it for the rear end. Okay. Happy to have that back together. So the last thing I need to work on here is this transmission and transfer case. So I pulled the drain plug or the fill plug and I wanted to check and see what kind of fluid was in here or how much fluid was in here. And I was not happy because I'm pretty sure it's ATF, like really burnt ATF or something. I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be 90 weight in here. At least that's what they said at the parts store, which I agree is probably correct. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain it and refill it. And then I also want to do the same thing with the transmission, except for my skid plate is really stuck on here. And it's pretty much impossible to get to the fill plug and actually get it out with the skid plate in the way. So that's going to be a challenge getting that off. But let's just start with the transfer case and see if we can get that off of there. Or see if we can get that drained out. Okay. Let's make sure this one comes out. That's one thing I could say as far as advice goes. Make sure that your fill plug comes out before you pull your drain plug. Yeah, I already took this one out, so I know it comes out. So, fill plug is loose. Drain plug. Let's see what's in here. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's not ATF. That's dirty oil. So the transmission on this thing takes 530, maybe 540, depending if you have like really high temperatures. You know, if it's hot where you are, temperature dependent. So this just feels like this feels like 530 as well, which is a mistake. Apparently this is supposed to have gear oil in it. So we're going to put gear oil in it, and we're going to put 530 in the transmission. And it's kind of dirty. It's dirtier than I would expect for a transfer case. Pop that back in there. Wipe this first. Now I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes pumping frickin' gear oil into this thing. Alright, so I got that filled up. Thank goodness, took a while, but So while I was filling this and taking breaks from pumping it, I used a torch on this and heated it up. I had put some penetrating oil, some PB Blaster on here multiple times while it was sitting up here on the lift over a few days. And I used some heat on this, and this one actually came out. I was really surprised. I didn't think it would. So let's try this one, and then I think we have one more, and then that will make our lives a lot easier for getting to the fill plug on the transmission. This last one, you're not going to be able to see. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get it. There we go. It shows you what a little bit of heat will do. And the penetrating oil helps. And the heat, this penetrating oil plus the heat is the best combination. U-joints look good. Alright, so I gotta get that fill plug out, which is on this side, and then the drain plug is right here. So let's see if I can get that fill plug. Let's try a wrench. 15/16 wrench. Here. Okay. Oh, hey, look at that. I tried to get this thing out. You know, I tried to snake my hand up in there and tried to snake a wrench up in there, but it just didn't work. Okay. That's out. Let's see what we got in there. Okay, it's slightly low. It's a little dirty. Let's drain it. Let's definitely drain it. At least I think this is the drain plug. It's funny how they have this little hole in the skid plate there, but in reality, it's not going to go through that little hole. Not a chance. In fact, even when it slows down, it's not going through that hole. It's just pouring all over the dang skid plate. Look at that. It just makes a mess all over this back skid plate. I'm not ready to try and take that one out. I'm just going to leave that one alone for now. Yeah, that's dirty. And that's the same fluid that was in the transfer case, which is supposed to be different. It's supposed to be 90 weight in the transfer case. As far as I know, I could be wrong. Let me know. Let me know if you guys, Isuzu Rodeo / Honda Passport experts out there, let me know if the transfer case is actually supposed to have 530 or whatever in it. And this does have a magnet on it. The transfer case did too. It's got just a tiny bit of metal on it, which is totally normal. It's good. It's good news. Alright, so I had an idea. It was to use this little, I had this little pulse pump, or this little electric fuel pump, and I use it sometimes to like drain gas tanks or whatever. I'm like, will this thing move oil? I don't know. It'll move fuel. I tried it out on the bench. It works, so hopefully this is going to work to fill this transmission. That's the plan. So let's see if we can get this in here from down here. We can. Okay. So we got that in there. Now we need our battery. We got this random battery. Put this in here. Bam. Okay. Alright, let's go like this. That's pumping, or it's pulsating at least. Is it moving oil? No. Come on, baby. There it goes. All right. All right, there we go. We're pumping. Okay. We're pumping, we're pumping. Let's make sure we're still moving oil. We are, okay. Well, it's working. So it took a while for that pump to actually pump. It was like over 3 quarts, I want to say, or it's about 3 quarts. Actually, maybe a little less than 3 quarts, but it took a while. I want to say well over 10 minutes, maybe, to pump that in there. And now I'm just about to put the skid plate back on, and I'm chasing the holes with a tap, and I chase the bolts with a die, because I just don't want to have problems with these in the future. And I want them to go in easily right now, so clean all these holes up, do my due diligence here, and get this skid plate back on, and then we'll be done. I knew it. Alright, I think we lost the we lost the nut, the captured nut on the back side. So that'll be fun to deal with when we have to take it back out. But we got 2 of the bolts, so let's run it. Quick update here. This is the cover being taken back off because I have a problem. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. I'll pull you off here. See if I can get you real close here. Alright, so this is actually a plug now and not my barb, but that's where my barb was. So the plug, the cover, the vent that was on the cover was about in the same location, just on the cover. I drove this thing for, my son to school this morning, and I smelled gear oil, so I got out, and it was pushing gear oil out the vent, which was up there. I just actually broke that off because it's rusty and nasty, so we're going to run a separate vent hose now. I'm not going to run through that little thing up there. So you can see what was happening, though. I mean, the ring gear is nearly in line. When these things spin and it's full of gear oil, there's just gear oil just flying around in here. And I think it was just pushing it straight up the tube, all the way up, a foot, about a foot or foot and a half worth up the line there. So now I have to figure out, where can I put this? So when I looked online, a lot of the Dana 44s basically had a flat spot like right here. But this casting doesn't have that. I mean, this is a weird casting because it has that ABS sensor back here. I don't want it anywhere in line with the ring gear. That's just asking for the fluid to be slung out. So the only place that I can figure is basically right here. And I'm still not sure if that will be okay. I think it'll be okay because it's out of like the direct path of this swinging, and it'll be off to the side. I just don't, I can't see anything anywhere in here where it would be good, unless maybe you put it directly over where the pinion goes through, but I haven't seen anybody do that. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm leaning that it's not a good idea. So the other option is, they used to have them on the axle tube. I'm kind of leaning this direction because the only thing that's spinning in here is the axle, and it's not spinning and throwing as much gear oil as this is at all. The gear oil just kind of sits in there and makes its way out to the bearings. And what's the level? It's about halfway up the tube, maybe. Where's that cover? So It's probably just mainly in the bottom of the tube, probably the bottom 2/3 of the tube, the gear oil. This is a tough one, you know. The problem with drilling it here is that I'm not going to be able to get the shavings out, except for maybe like I could do like a drill bit coated with the grease to try and keep the shavings out, and then maybe I'll be able to stick a magnet in there to try to get the rest of them. You know, I'm kind of leaning to this location because, did I just say they used to? So this was the vent location. For a long time, they just basically had like a little hole, and then like on some of the old Fords and stuff, they had where this bolted to the housing. I think it was up here. It had like a nipple. It bolted right into the housing. So there was like a threaded bolt, and it bolted the brake line into the housing, and then there was the bolt had a vent through it. And then other ones, they basically just drilled this little tiny hole, and that was it. But those are problematic because when you go off-road or whatever, you can get water and contaminate your diff. So I just don't know. I don't know if this will solve my problem if I drill it right here. I don't know if this is the best idea, or so I got to think about this for a minute, and I'll let you guys know what I decide to do. All right, so I made a decision, and my decision is to go for the top of the axle tube. It's not ideal. If this axle had that casting in it, that flat piece of casting right there, I would probably go right here. And I think it lands like somewhere right here. But one of the problems is I don't have that casting. That casting, when I was looking online, is like an inch thick or so. So, you know, you can see this fitting protruding through the axle. The axle housing is not that thick right here. So I think that helps to keep the oil out too, you know, that thick chunk of axle housing. So it has to make its way up through there. If it had that casting, I would use that, but because it doesn't, this is not the most ideal spot on the axle tube, but I think it's the best solution. I don't want to have this problem, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to drill this tubing. I'm going to put grease on the drill bit to try and keep the shavings out, and then I'm hoping I'll be able to fit my magnet in there. Yeah, I should be able to. So I have a magnet with a pretty small end. That should be able to fit through the hole because it's an 11 30-seconds drill bit. So we'll be able to just get this in there and fish out anything so that we don't end up ruining, probably, I bet it would go to the wheel bearing. So that is the plan. Okay, so there's one. Step it up. Fish for any shavings in there. Oh yeah, there's a couple right there. Alright, I think we got that. So now we got to get our tap, and then we got to put some grease on that for sure as well. We'll run that in there. Oh yeah. Alright, so I think we got as much as we could out of there. Alright, so there we go. We got our barb in there. Here's the back side of it. So we've got this brand new hose running all the way up here, and then we got this little valve up here to help keep the dirt out. And that's about as good as it can get under here, unless you run it up somewhere higher. I don't know where, but that's pretty good. So I will report to you at the end of this video if this works. It should work. I'm going to be very disappointed if it doesn't. So I gotta tie this up, I gotta fix that brake line, and get this thing back on the road. All right, well, that's it for this episode. We got a new diff cover for the rear because it had rusted holes in it. We did a new pinion seal. We cleaned the whole rear end up, painted it with Pour 15. What else we do? Refilled it, obviously. And then we moved up here and we did a quick transfer case and transmission service. And that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please smash that like button, hit the subscribe, hit the bell if you want to get notified of future videos coming out from DJ's Hot Rod and Fab. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.